Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me here on AudienceLed Presents. Your philosophy of pairing a human-first brand with AI-first growth is exactly what our community needs to hear. Now that I've read through your incredible breakdown of your custom AI personal operating system, I want to gear both of your on-camera prompts toward how you are practically living out that boundary between marketing strategy and technical execution. Fair?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, thank you so much, Kathleen. So this first one is a strategic insight spotlight. You have pointed out a massive shift keeping modern CMOs awake at night. Buyers have gone quiet, doing their research in untrackable peer communities, Slack groups, and private DMs, while legacy CRMs blindly reward last-click attribution. In a world where AI is flooding the gates with generic thought leadership, how do growth teams successfully pivot to building customer proof and ensure their brand shows up in the private rooms where decisions are actually being made?
So the reason that I have a strong opinion on this is that I led go-to-market at Pavilion for 3 years. And Pavilion is the probably world's largest private community of go-to-market executives with a heavy concentration in B2B tech. And we had a Slack channel. And every day I would look in that Slack channel and see the conversations that all of these executives were having. And there was one time that I actually ran an analysis of like, what are the trends? What are people talking about in here? And it reinforced what I saw anecdotally, which is that the number one type of question that executives would ask in these private peer communities was vendor and tool recommendations, which surprised me at first because I was like, wow, aren't there more sensitive personal things they'd probably want to talk about? But actually it's like, hey, I need to buy a solution for X. What have you used? And so buyers, I don't even know if I could technically say buyers have gone quiet. They've gone quiet in some of the traditional channels that we're used to them making noise in, right? Like they're not converting on our lead magnets as much as they used to. And so the problem is really that our attribution systems were built for an era that no longer exists. Yeah. They were built when the primary objective of the website was to serve as an educational surface. So this is why we had SEO strategies. This is why everybody was producing educational blogs at a really high rate because we wanted to get found, and buyers didn't really have another great way of getting educated on our product. And so they would come to our websites, they would read all of our content, and then they'd probably still go to communities or their friends on LinkedIn. Or I mean, people have always asked other people about their experience with a product. But what's changed is that educational process has completely shifted and AI is solving it. I mean, a great example, and this isn't buying technology, but I just went on vacation in Europe and I planned my entire vacation in ChatGPT. And even once I was over there, if we were finishing up with a tour of some site, I would pull out my ChatGPT and be like, what is a great restaurant nearby that my 19-year-old son could eat at? He doesn't like fish, and my husband prefers this or that, and we don't want to walk more than 5 blocks. And it just gave me the answer, right? Like it gave me the answer. I didn't have to search.
Yeah, as opposed to going to Google like
right.
you normally
like,
would, right? You're not going on Google Maps anymore.
And it links to Google Maps. Like I then can go and follow the directions right to the front door of that place. And so we're all lazy as buyers. We're gonna use the solution that is the easiest. And right now that's the easiest solution. But the attribution systems we have weren't designed for that. And so fewer people are coming to our websites for that top of funnel education. I still believe they're coming to our sites, but it's more for engagement. It's to interact with the brand. It's to validate what they've learned.
To validate what they've already heard from their peers, which is kind of funny because Pavilion came about and you've got all these go-to-market leaders that are working with technology that is looking for attribution in ways that Pavilion kind of was the catalyst to. People are talking inside a Pavilion versus going to the website to learn about things. Sort of like Pavilion almost enabled that in a little bit of a way, right? That they're talking about it in this community. Like these communities are helping bring about this change as opposed to going to the website of whatever technology that you're thinking about. You're already asking the people in this Pavilion website, so it kind of fed into it.
Yeah, and I would say I don't think, especially in B2B, or at least anytime soon, that AI is going to replace humans as purchasers. I think particularly as you get into higher dollar value buys, there's too much risk involved for the person whose job it is to make that purchase. And so
Yep.
AI is going to satisfy the educational requirement, but we're still going to want to talk to people who've used products. We are still going to be looking for recommendations and referrals. And there's still a relationship-based element there because we want to know that we can trust the brand. We'll probably still go to the website too to validate everything we learn. So customer proof is essential. Hearing from another customer that they've had a great experience, that they trust the product, that it does what it says it does, that is worth more than any content you could possibly create. But I think the key is buyers are building their shortlist before they're getting to that customer proof. And so you do still need to optimize for AI, and you still need educational content so that it can get found. It's just not getting found on your website. It's getting fed to AI, and AI is synthesizing it and supplying the answers. So assuming that you have that dialed in and you're making the short list, then the question is like, how do you rise to the top in the customer conversation? And that's about both having a great product and delivering what you say you can do, but also having, I would say, the legendary brand. I think brand is becoming a true superpower these days for marketers. And I actually think it's going to be this thing that saves the job of the marketer in the age of AI, because AI is going to be the great equalizer for all of the content we create and so many other things we do as marketers. But it's that creativity, that differentiation, that zigging when everybody else zags, that I think human marketers can bring to the conversation to help brands stand out and to build trust. It's also why events are so successful right now, because people want to be in the room with their peers, having those conversations in a confidential setting. So to me, treating your customers well, creating the customer content, building customer evangelism programs, putting on events. It's something we do a lot of at Sequel. We have a CMO dinner series, so we can invite into the room our customers along with the people that we'd love to have as customers. And we're not pitching, we're letting that conversation unfold naturally between the two of them and really just providing the platform for it to happen on.
I've had some very good conversations with folks that focus their work on events. And one of the things I've heard recently with a conversation I had with a gentleman called Joe Fontana is smaller group sizes are really the key. It's not the 300 people in a room, conference or just meetup. It's the ones where you've got 15 people. The folks that someone like Kathleen, if they're in a room of 15 people, you're able to kind of key in on conversations that are happening between 15, 20 people, but not 300. How are you changing the way that you're throwing events with Sequel or in the past, or how you just see them personally? Is smaller the better way to go? Is there still room for bigger events like your SaaStr? Or do we have to kind of shrink the room?
Yeah, I think it totally depends. I've planned a ton of events in my time. When I was at Pavilion, I planned for 3 years, I planned our large GTM conference, which had just shy of 1,000 people at it. But we also, my team planned over 200 private dinners a year that were small events. And then we planned medium-sized summits. So you name it, pretty much I've had a team that's planned it. And I would say there's a right event format for each circumstance. If you are trying to cultivate this customer proof that we're talking about here, then I think the smaller setting is really valuable, because that's where people are willing to open up. It's where relationships are built. And I just had to give this feedback to somebody the other day who approached us and asked if we wanted to sponsor a party at HubSpot's Unbound conference. And my response was like, I'm sure it's going to be an amazing party, but that's not how we see buying happen. We see buying happen over dinners in small settings where the conversation can get detailed and deep. So I love that small dinner format when you're running an ABM motion, when you're trying to further the relationship and get somebody down funnel. That being said, I do think there's a place for larger events. I think like Pavilion's event is great. And I think there are also a lot of customer conference events that are great. But the reason those work is they're bringing together communities that already have a commonality. And so in the case of the Pavilion event, it is literally a community of members who are coming together. So there are pre-existing relationships that were built over Slack at those smaller dinners. And what you're doing is you're providing a place for that larger group to come together in person and reinforce relationships that have already been built. when it comes to customer conferences, I do think you can have larger events. Dreamforce is a great example. It's huge, huge event, great event.
Yeah.
But it's because these people, a lot of them are Salesforce customers. And
Right.
so they're coming with a very specific purpose in mind, and that is to learn more about the platform that they've invested in, to meet partners, to talk to other customers. So I don't think it's as cut and dry as like smaller is better. I think
Yeah.
it depends on what your goal is, and that should really dictate how you structure the event.
Thank you so much for that answer, Kathleen. Let's move on to the next one. This is the AI operator spotlight for you. Kathleen, you recently pulled back the curtain on version 2.0 of your personal operating system built in Claude Code, and you dropped a phenomenal line. You cannot architect what you have not experienced. For operators who want to move past basic, disconnected custom GPTs and build a true automated engine that integrates live data from Granola, Supabase, HubSpot, and ClickUp, what are the baseline requirements for creating an infrastructure with persistent memory and recursive learning that actually gets smarter every single week?
I did say you cannot architect what you have not experienced, but I should qualify that and say the best architect is someone who has experienced the problem. It's certainly possible, but I have this strong, strong belief that the best AI solutions are the ones designed by the person who's looking to solve their own problem. It's where we get creative. It's where we start to imagine what's possible in ways that are more detailed than we otherwise might. And so I built this to solve for myself. I am an executive at a company that is growing really quickly. I have a lean team. We've committed to being very AI forward. So we're not just hiring every time we feel like we need help. We're first asking, can AI do this? And so I really want to walk the walk with my team. And I think one of the biggest challenges in any executive role is just keeping pace with the flow of information. It is like drinking from a fire hose. And so I decided to build this solution to help myself do my job better. And it is, like you said, I call it a personal operating system, and I interact with it twice daily at a minimum. Every morning I sit down and I prompt it with daily brief, and it goes and it looks at all of the meeting transcripts from the day before, which I use Granola for that. It looks at my ClickUp, so all my tasks, my personal calendar, my email, and it assembles essentially an analysis of what happened the day before, including everything I committed to doing. It has an executive coach prompt built in, so it tells me how I communicated. It gives me advice on how to do better. It looks at the meetings I have coming up and it helps me prepare for them. I fed it information on our org chart so it knows who everyone in the company is and who they report to and what their role is. So when it sees I have a meeting with our VP of CS, it knows these are the types of questions he's most likely going to ask me. And I've trained it to prompt me. These are the questions you should walk in ready to answer so that I am prepared. And it's helped me get a lot more proactive. It's also set up so that if it finds things I've verbally committed to do that are not already in ClickUp, I can just tell it to add them. And as you pointed out, it does have this recursive learning element to it, which is sort of a fancy way of saying it is self-improving in terms of its memory. So it has a bunch of memory files that it draws on. It knows all about me and my point of view. I built a brain, if you will, in Obsidian.
The second brain.
Yeah, and I gave it like every podcast interview I've ever done, everything I've ever written in my Substack, all the LinkedIn posts I've ever posted, like every single thing I could find about like my opinions and the way I think about things, I've put in there. Plus, of course, it has all the transcripts from my Granola meetings. And so it hears that anecdotal information. So it has these memory files and it knows what the org chart is. And then every day when I run this prompt, it gives me the analysis of how I did the day before. And if it surfaces any new findings or any new observations, at the end of the daily brief exercise, it will update those memory files with that information. This is the part that makes it really great. Every evening, so it helps me prep for my day, it gives me advice on how to prepare, and then every evening I sit down and I prompt it with evening reflection, and it asks me basically to tell it how my day went. So I use Whisper Flow, which is voice to text, and I just talk to it, and I'll be like, I had a great day, and here's why, and these are the meetings I thought went well, and these are the ones that I thought I could have done better on. and I talk as long as I need to talk. And then it starts to ask me questions and we have a conversation back and forth where it digs deeper. And that's really where a lot of the memory comes from, because that's the qualitative evaluation of kind of my own performance and how I'm doing. And I found that to be really, really helpful. So having the memory documents built, and I use Supabase to store a lot of that. So it houses my granola transcripts, it houses all of my brain information, and then it condenses that down into these summary memory documents, but it can call into that every time I work with it if it needs deeper information, which I find really helpful. And I'll tell you, since I've started using it, I have noticed such a huge improvement in myself as a leader, because it gives me communication advice. Like if I have a difficult conversation I need to have, it suggests how to have that. And it's been spot on every single time, which is a little frightening. It's helped me prepare for tough meetings. It reminds me, especially if I'm procrastinating doing something, it will be like, hey, this is the third day you've talked about this being important. You know, you need to get to it.
And you've kicked this can down the road for a third day. Yeah, don't
totally.
Do a fourth day. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I did write an issue of my Substack on this, and in it, I added a summary document that is basically instructions that anybody could give to their own Claude Code instance to build it. So if you're interested in that, just head to Code Meets Creed, which is my Substack, and you can get that there.
That is great, Kathleen. How long are your conversations, like the debrief conversations, in the evening?
I've had some days that have been great and it's pretty quick. I'm like, everything went really well, you know, and here's what I'm excited about. And then other days when I've had really, really tough conversations, and I can talk to it for 30 minutes, like back and forth, where it asks me probing questions and tries to get like to the bottom of what's really going on. So it's been very helpful. It's a little bit like having a therapist / executive coach. Yeah, it's really great. And the beauty of AI is, especially with executive coaching, you really don't worry about what you're telling it. You can tell it anything because it doesn't judge you.
I haven't found anyone that's ever used it for that type of thing. It's sort of like once the day ends, the day has ended. Like my use for AI in that capacity has ended. I'm going and doing my personal things, but you're still adding a little bit of your day, let's say 30 minutes or whatever that amount may be, to kind of debrief and have it, in a sense, give you a leg up on the next day.
Yeah, that's the qualitative information. Like it's easy to look at calendars and meeting transcripts and other sources, but there's a lot that goes unsaid, even in meetings and one-on-ones. And so I think being able to come to the LLM at the end of the night and say all of the unsaid things, confess the things that scare you or that you regret, you know, to be really brutally honest. I think that's where the real magic starts to happen and the AI starts to get to know you at a deeper level and can give you really good advice.
It's so important, the qualitative part you're talking about, because listen, as much as I want to say, as people want to say that they're open with their team, they're really not. You're not as open as you are on a conversation with 5 different people on it or even one other person on it. You are open when you're on yourself and you have this moment of reflection to speak into this tool that is not going to judge you or maybe look at you a little bit funny or maybe write something down or just, like you said, judge and thinking about it later on and how it's going to affect your relationship with that person or with the company. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us on AudienceLed Presents. My final question for you, actually, I've been asking everyone, who have you followed lately that more people should know about, or lately or for a while that you just want to kind of shout out?
I would say that one of the people, particularly on LinkedIn, who has, I think, a thoughtful presence and who makes really interesting posts is Lisa Sharapata. She is a marketing leader who I've known for a long time. She recently co-founded and moderates a couple of AI communities for marketers, and she just started in a go-to-market leadership position at Blackboard, and she's got a great LinkedIn presence, and more people should follow her for sure.
Fantastic. Lisa Sharapata.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us on AudienceLed Presents.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye, Kathleen.